Did that surprise you at all, how well you started, Chris?
Yeah, it did. It did, Pete. We have a lot of respect for the opposition, but you always go in with some apprehension into round one. We feel like we've had a good preparation, not perfect. We've still got some players that we think will come back in the next week or two or three. But it was, on a couple of levels, I think the main one is it just gives us all validation for the things we've been working so hard on. We've got some new people into our footy club and they've just been an overwhelming positive for us. And I would have felt that even if we didn't perform that well today. We're going to be a bit of a work in progress with some of the things we've shifted, but yeah, I'm just really proud of the whole club and the way we've worked on some things, and just nice to see it come out early on. But the other point was just the silver lining for having a couple of guys not quite ready to play round one was we were going to play them anyway, but we got some younger guys in that I thought equipped themselves really well. I thought DeConning looked solid back there. Ratugolea was a threat. Thought Holmes was really good. Francis Evans, looked dangerous. It was a good sign for us. We think our experience is a strength, but obviously when those younger players come in and change you a little bit, then, I think it all gets us up on our toes that little bit more.
You talk about the kids there. There was a bit of a rush in the off-season to write you off because you're old and the list profile, but early on, Dangerfield, Hawkins, Selwood really made some big statements early that set the afternoon up. Yeah,
it's a long year, and I really haven't heard much of that, but I'll take you at your word. In some ways, I feel like I've heard that a little bit in the last decade. I'm taking you back, I know, but I heard it from the day I walked into the club, and most people mounting those arguments do it from a basis of logic. I'm likely to agree with a lot of the points they make. Our challenge is to focus in on what we do. It's been a little bit of a shift there in terms of just taking a step back and saying, what are our strengths and how do we maximise them a little bit more? And that's you're always trying to balance. Every team's doing the same thing, trying to say how do we maximise what we're good at and mitigate the parts that might be a bit of a flaw within our personnel or within our system. But in the next couple of weeks we might have an average one, and we just understand that the logical argument would be, they look a bit old and slow. So it's not our position that we need to argue with that. We've just got to go about our business. And I think I've said a couple of times over the last little bit, so much work goes into it, not just in the playing and the coaching ranks, but in the list management team and the recruiting. It's hard in a handicap competition, so we acknowledge those, but we're just not prepared to give into it and talk ourselves into the fact that we can't be a very good team. I think the competition's going to be even. Everyone's going to have their highs and lows throughout the year, but we say to our players, either explicitly or most of the time it's implicit, that we're going to give you a chance to win it. And I think after round one, you can't absolutely confirm that, but the signs are good.
The secret to this club's success, though, over so long, you've made, I think 5 of the last 6 years, you've made preliminary final at least. Just the ability to tweak things, maximise strengths, recognise where you potentially fell down and do stage and then go again next year. Is that sort of one of the...
Yeah, I think that's one of them. I think the credit should go to the players, as always. And we involve them heavily in the way we go about things. It's logical. You've got some experienced experts in their field. You should have them having input into how they go about their business as well. And in a perfect world, we're kind of facilitating what they think their strengths are as much as possible. But yeah, again, I don't want to break my own rule here and look back too much. But the part I'm arguably most proud of is that our consistency's been off the back of a complete rebuild. No one likes to use that word in the early days, but we got 3 players from 2011 in our team. We haven't done it off the back of top 10 picks. We've done it off the back of Category B rookies and Irishmen and late picks.
Could you have asked for anything more from Tyson Stengel in his first game for the club?
No, it's what we brought him in for. But he didn't come in with a golden ticket. He needed to earn his spot in the team, and he did that quite quickly through his preparation through the pre-season. But I'm really proud of him. He's 12 months ago, he was a long way away from the position he's in today, but he's put his head down, and I haven't seen anything but good things from Tyson. And I think the whole world understands that we've all got skeletons in our closet. We've all done things that we're not proud of, but it's sort of how you fight your way back. I know it's a cliche, but we tried to leave enough space for him to actually show us what he could be. We had a specific position in mind for him to play if he was good enough. And did he kick 4 today? He looked a threat at ground level. Yeah, I'm really proud of him.
Can you give us an update on Jeremy Cameron?
Not a detailed one. He seemed to be okay, so his knock was to the body, so there's no concussion issue there. There is a concussion issue with Sam de Koning, so that will put him in the protocol. But Jeremy just couldn't get going, and we were prepared to wait as long as possible, but he was going downhill, not improving. So my understanding is that they've sent him off for a precautionary scan, but I couldn't even tell you exactly where it is. The feedback I've got is they're comfortable he's okay, but they just want to double check.
There was talk of the hip pointer, but there was also talk of the rib.
Yeah, so I'm not deliberately being evasive, but it's sort of a body shot, sort of somewhere between the chest and the hip. So I don't know exactly. Certainly the hip pointer was part of it, but I don't think that he's having his hip pointer scanned. I think it's more just to double check the internal status.
Dangerfield just looked back to his best today.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to go too far in my praise of him, but I thought he just took the game away from the opposition early on. And we've been confident in him more so than the last couple of years because he has endured some physical limitations that he just hasn't had. Our medical and sports science team have done a terrific job with him. And again, it's not our only strategy, but we think there are reasons some of our more experienced players haven't quite physically been at their best, and they're reasons that have got nothing to do with age. So yeah, he looked like the danger of a few years ago. I mean, he's been good for us the last couple of years, but when he was the dominant player in the competition, look, I'll put it this way, you can't be the dominant player in the competition if you're limited physically.
You've rattled off some of the names of the kids who probably impressed you today. We've talked about the veterans, probably one in between Brandon Parfitt, 11 clearances, and he was every bit as dominant in that first half.
Yeah, for us, he's a young player.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
our 28-year-olds are our young players. No, he was.
Where's he at with his footy?
Well, I think his best footy's in front of him, and he's part of a big group that fit into that category. I shouldn't individualise, but just sort of off the top of my head, Jack Henry, second in our best and fairest this year. Really close to winning it. We think we've got a sizable chunk of players who will play together for a long time. So I'm happy to kind of have the conversation sort of off the record, off air, but we're not overconfident in where our list's at. But as I said, we think we've got some players that can play really high level footy together for a long time, and Brandon's kind of at the head of that. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.